Hello friends, in the previous unit we have studied divisibility theory in the integers. Today we are going to start with the next unit, unit 3, primes and theory of congruence. You are already familiar with prime and composite numbers. So what is a prime? Any non-zero integer p not equal to plus minus 1 is said to be prime if its only divisors are plus minus 1 and plus minus p. That is, any non-zero integer p not equal to plus minus 1 is prime if it has only improper divisors. Observe that there are infinitely many primes. Which are the prime numbers? 2, 3, 5, 7, 11 and so on. They have only improper divisors. They do not have proper divisors. So, the primes are plus minus 2, plus minus 3, plus minus 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19 and so on. Observe that there are infinitely many primes. That is, there is no end to the sequence of primes plus minus 2, plus minus 3, plus minus 5, plus minus 7 and so on. So the numbers which are not primes are composite numbers. So composite number a non-zero integer a not equal to plus minus 1 is said to be composite if it is not prime. That is, if a can be written as m into n, where 1 less than mn less than a. So a has proper divisors and therefore a becomes composite. For example, 4, 8, 12, 16, all these are composite. 15, all these are composite numbers. So if a can be expressed as product of numbers which lies between 1 and a, we say that a becomes a composite number. Now we are going to see one of the important theorem or lemma known as Euclid's lemma. It says that if p is a prime and ab are integers such that p divides ab, then either p divides a or p divides b. So see the proof. It is given that p is a prime and p divides ab, and we want to prove either p divides a or p divides b. As p divides ab, by definition of divisibility, there exists an integer k such that ab is equal to p into k for some k belonging to z. So this is known to us. Now if p divides a, nothing to prove. If p divides a, we are done. But if p does not divide a, then we will claim that p must divides b. So if p, it divides a or b. If it divides a, we are done. But if it does not divide a, we should prove that p divides b. Now p does not divide a means that GCD of p and a is 1. And because GCD of p and a is 1, there exist integers x and y such that px plus ay is equal to 1. Now multiply both sides by b. Therefore, b into px plus aby is equal to b. But we know value of AB. AB is nothing but PK by equation 1. So put that value. This is B into PX plus AB is nothing but PK into Y is equal to B by 1. Take P common from this. So P into bracket BX plus KY is equal to B. This implies that P divides B. So B is equal to P into some integer, that is Bx plus Ky. So obviously P divides B. Therefore, if P does not divide A, then P divides B. Therefore, either P divides A or P divides B. So for prime, we have the theorem, if P is a prime and P divides product AB, it should divide at least one of them, either A or B. The result can be generalized. We have proved it for two integers. If P divides the product AB, it divides at least one of them. We can generalize the result. So the next corollary, it is generalization of above result. It states that if P is a prime and P divides product A1 into A2 into A3 dot dot AN, then P must divide at least one of them AI, 1 less than or is equal to I less than or equal to N. So if P divides the product of integers, then it must divides at least one of them. We want to prove this. So it is generalization of Euclid's lemma. So see the proof. The proof is by principle of mathematical induction. So the first principle of mathematical induction, we have 3 steps. Prove that P1 is true, assume that Pk is true, and prove that Pk plus 1 is also true. So obviously by principle of mathematical induction, the statement is true. So start with the step 1. Observe that if n is equal to 1, so our Pn is given to us, that is Pn statement is given to us. Pn is nothing but, we will start with Pn. Pn is nothing but, if P divides A1, A2 dot dot An, then P divides at least one AI, 1 less than or is equal to I less than or equal to n. This is our Pn statement. Now step 1. If you take n is equal to 1, the result is very obvious. P divides A1. So the result is obvious. We will take n is equal to 2. So if n is equal to 1, then P1 is obviously true. So take n is equal to 2. For n is equal to 2, that is, if P divides A1, A2, then we want to prove P divides at least one of them, that is either P divides A1 or P divides A2. We want to prove this. For n is equal to 2, we want to prove that if P divides the product A1, A2, it should divide A1 or A2. But we know this is true by Euclid's lemma. We have just proved that by Euclid's lemma, if P divides the product AB, it divides A or B. So it is true by Euclid's lemma. So by Euclid's lemma, P2 is also true, because Euclid's lemma says that if P divides the product, it divides at least one of them. Now step 2. Assume Pk is true for some k belonging to n. That is, assume that if P divides A1 into A2 dot 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 AK, the product, then P divides at least one AI, 1 less than or is equal to I less than or is equal to K. So this is given to us. That is, if P divides the product A1 to AK, then P divides at least one of them, AI. Now we want to prove that Pk plus 1 is true. So to prove that, step 3, to prove Pk plus 1 is true. That is to prove if P divides A1, A2 dot dot AK into AK plus 1, then P divides at least 1, that is P divides AI, 1 less than or is equal to I less than or is equal to K plus 1. We want to prove this. So start with the given. P divides A1 into A2 etc. AK into AK plus 1. So this implies P divides A1 into A2 into AK into AK plus 1. We assume this is as a one number and this is second number, and by Euclid's lemma we know that if P divides the product, P divides at least one of them. So P divides either this or this by Euclid's lemma. So this implies P divides either the product A1 to AK or P divides AK plus 1 by Euclid's lemma. Because we assume this as a one number and this is second number. So if P divides AB, it divides A or B. Now by statement step 2, if P divides A1 to AK, P divides AI for 1 I lies between 1 to K. So using that, P divides A1 to AK implies that P divides AI 1 less than or is equal to I less than or is equal to K by step 2, and this remains as it is, or P divides AK plus 1 by step 2. And therefore this implies P divides AI 1 to K and this is K plus 1. So 1 less than or is equal to I less than or is equal to K plus 1. This implies that Pk is true, implies that Pk plus 1 is also true. So Pk implies Pk plus 1, and therefore by principle of mathematical induction, Pn is true for all n belonging to n, that is natural numbers. So because P divides product A1 to AK plus 1, P divides at least one of them. So this is generalization of Euclid's lemma. If a prime divides product, then it must divide at least one of them. Now using this, we can solve an example. Let P is a prime. P divides A and P divides A square plus B square. Show that P divides B. Observe that P is a prime. So it is given that P is a prime. P divides A. This implies that P divides A into A. Because it divides A, it divides the product A into A, that is P divides A square. Also given P divides A square plus B square, and therefore P divides A square, P divides A square plus B square, so P divides the difference of that is P divides A square plus B square minus A square. If P divides A square, P divides A square plus B square, P divides difference of them, that is A square plus B square minus A square, and therefore P divides B square, that is P divides B into B, and therefore by Euclid's lemma P divides B. If P divides the product, it divides at least one of them, so by Euclid's lemma P divides B. So if P divides A, P divides A square plus B square, it obviously divides B. This Euclid's lemma is also useful to show that a number is irrational. So consider the example. Show that root 2 is irrational number. The proof is by contradiction. So let it possible root 2 is rational. Root 2 is rational means it can be written in the form a by b, where a and b are integers, and we assume that the GCD of a and b is 1. So there is no number common to a and b. The GCD of AB is 1. So this is our assumption. Root 2 is equal to a by b, where GCD of a and b is 1, because we are saying that root 2 is rational. So this implies that cross multiplying we get root 2 into b is equal to a, or squaring we get 2b square is equal to a square. This implies that 2 divides a square, because GCD of a and b is 1. So obviously 2 divides a square. But 2 divides a square means 2 divides a into a, and 2 is prime. So by Euclid's lemma, 2 divides a. Because 2 is prime number, if it divides product, it must divides at least one of them. So 2 divides a. 2 divides a means a must be written as 2 into some integer where r belongs to z. This implies that a square is equal to 4 into r square. Now observe that this a square is nothing but 2b square. So put that value. This gives 2b square is equal to 4r square by equation 1. So this implies that b square is equal to 2r square, implies that 2 divides b square, that is 2 divides b into b, and again by Euclid lemma 2 divides b. Because it divides product and 2 is a prime number, so by Euclid's lemma 2 divides b. Now see this statement, 2 divides a also and 2 divides b also. So if you consider the statement a and b, it shows that 2 divides a also and 2 divides b also. Therefore from statements a and b, 2 divides a and 2 divides b implies that the GCD of a and b should be greater than or equal to 2. But we are saying that the GCD of a and b is 1. So we get contradiction. So our assumption that root 2 is rational is wrong. But this contradicts. That GCD of AB is equal to 1. Therefore, our assumption root 2 is rational is wrong. Hence, root 2 is irrational number. So root 2, root 5, root 7, all these are irrational number, and to prove that it is irrational number, we can use Euclid's lemma, because we know that if it is a prime number, p is a prime and p divides ab, it must divides at least one of them. So using that, we have proved that it divides a also, it divides b also, so obviously the GCD will be greater than or equal to 2. But while writing fraction, we don't have a common divisor, so GCD of AB is 1. We get contradiction to this statement, and therefore root 2 becomes irrational number. Now we are going to see one important theorem known as unique factorization theorem for integers, or it is also known as fundamental theorem of arithmetic. So it states that any positive integer n greater than 1 can be written as product of finite number of primes. This representation is unique apart from the order of prime factors. So any positive integer n greater than 1 can be written as product of finite number of positive primes, and that representation is unique. For example, if you consider 12, you are able to write down 12 as product of primes, that is 2 raised to 2 into 3 raised to 1. 4 into 3, 12. 4 is nothing but 2 square into 3 raised to 1. So it is written as, so this is nothing but 2 into 2 into 3, or what will change only? The order will change only, 3 into 2 into 2, whatever it may be. So only change is, so this is written as product of finite number of primes. Only the change is the order may change, otherwise this expression is always unique. So the corollary states that any positive integer n greater than 1 can be written uniquely we'll say in canonical form as n is equal to p1 raised to k1 into p2 raised to k2 etc. pr raised to kr, where for I is equal to 1 to r, each pi is prime each ki is positive integer and p1 less than p2 less than pr. So this is known as canonical form of any positive integer. See, for example, we have written 12 in canonical form here. 12 is equal to 2 square into 3 raised to 1. These are primes, these are the positive powers of them, and P1 is less than P2. So we express 12 in canonical form in this way. The use of this canonical form is to find GCD and LCM of given integers. If for integers a and b, say a is equal to p1 raised to a1, p2 raised to a2, etc. pk raised to ak, and b is equal to p1 raised to b1, p2 raised to b2, etc. pk raised to bk, where p1, p2, pk all are distinct primes. Then the GCD of A and B is nothing but P1 raised to minimum of A1 B1 into P2 raised to minimum of A2 B2 and so on, Pk raised to minimum of Ak Bk, and the LCM we write down it in square bracket, that is least common multiple of A and B is nothing but P1 raised to maximum of A1 B1, P2 raised to into P2 raised to maximum of A2 B2, etc. Pk in raised to maximum of Ak Bk. So these are the formulas for least common multiple and greatest common divisor. So canonical form is useful to write down the GCD and LCM. For example, express 24 and 40 in canonical form and write GCD and LCM of 24 and 40 using this. So firstly we express 24 and 14 canonical form. We can write 24 is equal to 2 into 12, that is 2 into 2 into 6, that is 2 into 2 into 2 into 3. It is nothing but 2 raised to 3 into 3 raised to 1. This is 24. This is canonical form for 24. If you consider 40, it is 2 into 20, that is 2 into 2 into 10, that is 2 into 2 into 2 into 5. So it is nothing but 2 cube into 5 raised to 1. Now we will write down this as same primes, and therefore we have this is written as 2 cube 3 raised to 1, there is no 5, so we will write down 5 raised to 0. Here we will write down 2 cube, there is no 3 power, so 3 raised to 0 into 5 raised to 1. Observe that we take the primes to be same, 2, 3 and 5. The powers are different. And then once you write down given numbers in product of same prime numbers, we have what is GCD of 24 and 40. GCD of 24 and 40 is nothing but 2 raised to minimum of the power of 2, that is minimum of 3 and 3. 2 raised to, it is minimum of 3 and 3 into 3 raised to minimum of 1 and 0 into 5 raised to minimum of 0 and 1. So 2 raised to minimum is 3. Minimum of 1 and 0 is 0 and minimum of 0 and 1 is 0. So it is 8, and therefore GCD of 24 and 40 is 8. If you find LCM of 24 and 40, is given by square bracket 24 40, it is nothing but 2 raised to maximum of 3 and 3 into 3 raised to maximum of the powers are 1 and 0, into 5 raised to maximum of 0 and 1. This is nothing but 2 raised to 3 into 3 raised to maximum is 1 into 5 raised to maximum is 1. So it is 8 into 15, that is 120. Therefore, least common multiple of 24 and 40 is 120. Observe that we have the formula GCD of two numbers, GCD of A and B into LCM of A and B is nothing but product AB. So you can check the GCD of 24 and 40, we will write down in mathematical form, into least common multiple of 24 and 40 is equal to product 24 into 40. Observe whether it is correct. The GCD comes to be 8, this comes to be 120, and the product 24 into 40 is also same. So both are equal. So you can verify that GCD into LCM is always equal to product. So once you know GCD, because you know how to find GCD by Euclidean algorithm. So once you know GCD, you are able to find LCM using the formula LCM is equal to product AB divided by GCD of AB, because you are able to find GCD by algorithm, Euclidean algorithm, or you can express any number in canonical form and use the formula for GCD and LCM and you can find. We have considered smaller numbers. Actually, it can be useful for bigger numbers to find GCD and LCM. Enough for the day. Thank you.